What's good, everybody? It's your homie Savage. Thanks for tapping in with Savage Studios. You already know. Much love, much respect. So today we got another Celly nightmare. This one happened in February of 2018, and I actually got the inside intel on this one. I can't release, pictures and things of that sort of the documents, but basically your boy pretty much got the inside scoop on a lot of things, man. This one happened in Tehachapi, go figure, no surprise there. Tehachapi's just that prison. I guess they send the worst of the worst there as far as S&Y, because if you don't know, the whole prison at one point, I think you had A and B yard level 4, that was the shoe. Now that's a level 4 180 S&Y. For those of y'all that don't know, level 4 180 is the top of the top, creme de la creme of the violent offenders, most violent inmates. Dangerous, lethal, whatever you want to call it. That's where they send them. That's where I spend a lot of my time personally. Then you have the level 3. There's no level 4 270. Then you have the level 3. You have the level 1. And I want to say level 1 is like, I've literally seen it driving up there on the bus up to the hill, because the level 4 180, which used to be the shoe, you kind of like, you just keep going and you're going up a hill on the bus all the way up to the shoe. But the lower facilities on the bottom of the hill towards the entrance, that's like the level 1. It looks like almost like apartment complexes. You'll see inmates walking around. It's crazy, man. It's a trip. Anyways, so Joshua Power and his celly Kevin Mansfield. Now, both of these dudes wasn't no stand-up citizens. Both of these dudes ain't no good guys. They weren't no, they were both violent offenders. Kevin Mansfield, which is the victim in the case who was killed in the cell, actually had done a lot of drugs with one of his childhood friends, whom which you've known since, I think, middle school or something like that. Ended up, letting him shower, give him some clothes, and then slit his throat. Took pictures of his body while he was dying, and began digging up a grave for him. This is his own childhood friend. So in my eyes, dude's a turd just for that, so he tried to blame the drugs. Everyone else was blaming the drugs. Drugs, right? Could have been the case, couldn't have been the case. Either way, I've been pretty damn high in my lifetime, and yeah, I don't know. It happens though, I guess, right? Joshua Power, he ain't no better. When he was given, damn, I can't remember how much time he was given. I want to say 30-something years, maybe 32, 33 years or so. The judge said that, and the judge, I guess, called it. Because he says, I'm glad to be taking somebody like you off the streets, someone so violent and dangerous to yourself and others. And look what happens down the line. He ends up smashing into Celly's face, etc., etc. Joshua Power also had a bunch of charges for corporal injury to his spouse. And I don't know. I don't know the difference between corporal injury or nothing like that, but it sounds a little bit worse than just a regular domestic abuse. He also was like beating up on her friend or something like that. So, and he had kidnapping. He was kind of, I guess you could say, in the same boat as far as violence went. I mean, he didn't slice her throat or nothing, but I mean, damn. So we got two violent individuals, one serving life and one serving 30-something years, maybe 40 years or so. And, you got to imagine, what's the last thing you think these two should have mixed in their life in the cell? Alcohol. Now, both of them were white. And in Tehachapi level 4 180, 9 times out of 10, they were probably associated or running with the S&Y cliques that they have in Tehachapi. Now, last time I was in Tehachapi, the whites had got removed as far as the entities go, right? Because it's not the same as general population. You don't just move a race off of a yard, but you get rid of certain gangs and cliques if you guys go to war. So maybe since then they came back or whatever the case is, but I think I'm almost positive. I'm going to do a little bit of digging. I got people in Tehachapi. I'm going to do a little digging and see where they were from, or see if they pushed any certain organization or clique, whatever you want to call it. But nonetheless, so CEOs come walking up. Kevin Mansfield is laying face down. Both of them got their boxers on, their shoes on, and their socks on, and that's it. Oh, and I think he had some gray shorts on, right? Like probably some Pro Club shorts or something. he's doing his count. The CO's doing his rounds up top tier, and then he's going down to the bottom tier. And however he did it, once he gets to the cell, I guess they had, they had like a window blocker. I've mentioned it before, like window blockers. We use them when when we take a shit, when we're taking a shower or bird bathing. Whenever we want a little bit of privacy, we put our window blocker up, give him just enough space so the CO can peek his head over and see. That way they don't get, because they have to see you it's mandated per California law now. They have to see you because so many cellies are killing themselves. So when he goes to the cell, he looks over the cardboard, sees the cardboard, looks on the cardboard and sees Joshua Power. He sees him standing over Kevin Mansfield, and he's pounding him the right side of his face in, while Kevin Mansfield's laying face down, not fighting back. He's completely tapped out in the middle of the hallway. Tehachapi prison has the biggest cells in California, in my opinion. The 180. They have huge, big cells. So his body was somewhere in the middle of the walkway and underneath the little desk, like his head area, but he was still getting them. He was laying down while he was getting them. They were both sprawled out, is how they described it. The part I didn't get is his boxers and his shorts were pulled down past his ass. So I don't know if he was planning on taking the cakes. I don't know if he took his cakes. I don't know why. All I can say is I've been in some pretty serious fights in prison cells. I've been in some pretty bloody ones. You can't always keep track of the things that go wrong during a fight in a cell. A lot of things can happen, especially your ass hanging out. So anyways, that one still gets me because it's like, damn, man, like, he was probably so far in a rage, he didn't even realize his Celly's ass was popping out and how it was going to look. But you got to understand, when these COs were coming to the door, this guy was in a drunken rage. He was in a drunken rage. The cops, the first row, Tehachapi COs are not COs you want to play with. At least when I was there, they weren't the ones you wanted to play with. I don't think they became the ones you want to play with anytime soon. So he was just nutting up, man. They told him cuff up or cut it out. He said, fuck you. He kept saying that all the way until the wheels fell off. Joshua Power was telling him, fuck you. That was his only response he was giving him. Now, was he mad because he was trying to take the cakes and they busted him? Or was he mad because there was some kind of disagreement in the cell? Or maybe they just really didn't like each other after so long of being cellies or whatnot. It had been reported, I guess, by other inmates around that Kevin Mansfield was a hard celly to have in the cell. So, and you're not even factoring the fact that there's so much drugs on these yards. There's so much crystal meth. There's so much heroin. These guys, let's say the crime that Kevin Mansfield committed was under, the influence of drugs. So what do you think's going to be different about it? This dude slit his own childhood friend's throat under drugs. So you think because he's in prison on a level 4 180 with the crazy celly that the speed's not going to hit him the same way? Look, I don't know the facts. I wasn't there, but that's all my assumption can be. When I was there, another guy had killed his celly. Weddle from Fresno had got strangled, or his neck broke, or along the lines of something like that, by someone from Chiquez. And Weddle had like 8 months to go home. So it's not unfamiliar. It's not unfamiliar territory or nothing like that, especially not when you're drinking. But see, all that happened under the influence of drugs as well. They both got tweaked out. Homie thought Weddle was stealing from him, shortchanging him and whatnot, so he got busy on him. So, but all this is always behind drugs. So it could have been very well that way. But they said that when they went to go interview or talk with Joshua Power, that they smelled a strong odor of alcohol on his breath. So, boom. And after seeing both the pictures, Joshua Power and Kevin Mansfield were both screwed up. Joshua Power's nose, his eyeballs, his arms, his hands, his feet, his ass, everything was swollen. So I'm not sure if it was Mansfield who did that, but I'm almost positive. I would put all my money on this, that the cops are the COs are the ones who got Joshua Power, because you can't be drunk saying F you to the cops after you just killed your Celly. You want to act like that? There ain't no cameras in Tehachapi on the ad seg, and yeah, I'm pretty sure they whipped his ass real proper. That's why his face, he looked like he was dead. And then, of course, Mansfield, the pictures I see of Mansfield, the only reason why I'm not posting them is because they're really black and white and really grainy. So I'm still hoping to get my hands on some better ones, maybe some color ones or something like that. And then maybe we could do an update and I can show you guys some pretty crazy pics. But drinking in prison will always lead to an overblown rage, especially if he was already tired, especially if Kevin Mansfield was just hard to get along with, which it seems like, man, which is, there's so many inmates who are not talking. No one came out to talk, because they, you know, when that shit like that happens in the pen, they like to ask questions, they like to take pictures of other cells, they want to see if you'll cooperate, blah blah blah. No one did. However, a few inmates that used to be Mansfield Cellies were willing to say how it was living with him and what kind of inmate he was like. And I don't know what the point of that is. Maybe that's just trying to build something. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, the man brutally smashed apart his Celly, smashed apart his face. I'm sure there was a struggle. I'm sure there was a fight. Maybe some of the lacerations and swelling to Joshua Power, his face, maybe some of that came from Mansfield, but nonetheless, Mansfield ended up being the one who died. Now, Mansfield also had 2nd and 3rd degree burns to his shoulder, some of his face, his fingers, his hands. So maybe Joshua Powers pulled one of them old, and I've heard about this, been on the yard with this kind of stuff, never been a part of it, never done it. I never had no one do it to me, but it was very common. People heating up their water with their hot pots, which you can order off Canteen or packages, getting the water super hot, and then gassing your Celly with it. And it almost sounds like that's probably what he did. He probably got a nice issue of boiling hot water, poured it all over his Celly while he was drunk. They're both drunk and probably just went to town on him. So at the end of the day, it is still a Celly nightmare. You are on a level 4 180. Karma, what goes around comes around. This man betrayed his best friend, his middle school friend, childhood friend, showered him up, who was homeless, showered him up, got him some clothes, slit his throat for no apparent reason, took pictures of his body, and then began digging a grave for him. This man tried to play judge, jury, and executioner and ended up doing that. In turn, karma, what goes around comes around. He got his piece of the pie. You know, he got it right back to him. Now, Joshua Power, we don't know what's going to be coming his way. Maybe he was just such a sour individual and had hurt so many people, his girlfriend or wife, his ex-wife and all of them included. Maybe he had just done so much damage that his karma was going to be catching a life sentence while in prison. Now he's stuck. He would have gotten out around the age of like 56 or 57 years old. Now he's stuck. Some of these people go to prison with a 20-year sentence and they think it's a life. They think it's the end of their life. They can't see the light no more. They don't want to try. They just want to catch a life sentence. And this is what happens. So anyways, I hope y'all like this Celly Nightmare edition. It's been a minute. I know you guys love these stories. Got my hands on something juicy. I wish I had the clean pictures to produce for you guys. But like I said, if I get them, I'll post an update video and we'll bring it back, man. But Tehachapi, 2018, man was brutally smashed apart in his cell with his chonies hanging under his ass cheeks like something funny had happened. Until then, much love, much respect. Doses.